Hello! Today I'm going to show you how to build the UEFI TOTS by ThatOSDev on GitHub on Linux. This is a fantastic repository, has lots of amazing content in it. There is a YouTube channel that you should definitely check out and subscribe to. More content is coming out on a daily basis almost at this stage. We also have a Discord server. People have gathered around and have conversations about the project and other topics related to the project. So I highly recommend it to join these two communities. This project was initially developed with a Windows development environment in mind, but we should be able to easily build and develop this project on other operating systems. I've also done a video on Mac OS. You will find in the description a link to it. Okay, first things first, we're going to need to get the repository. I already have done this and have cloned this repository in my workspace drive. All of the steps that I'm going to demonstrate here is available in our build instructions. For the time being, I'm going to type the commands that we need to mount a disk. So if you look at the repository, you will see that we have a drive directory. This drive directory has a file called drive.htd, and this file acts as a virtual disk image that we're going to mount on QEMU or any other virtual emulator. Let's see that this image actually works. So let's fire up QEMU, and I am passing the drive that I just mentioned to QEMU, and if I run this, we will get a virtual machine that runs our EFI program. Very good. Now let's build our own EFI. The first thing we need to do though is to mount this disk so we can interact with it and move our builds into it, and then we can ask QEMU to run that. First things first, let's create a loop device. It's very important to force the kernel to refresh the partition table cache, so we get to see what partitions are available on this disk. So you will see that that disk has been attached to the system. It's grayed out, that means it's not mounted yet, as the label says very nicely there. Our device is called dev loop 0. If we have a look at this device, you will see that it has a partition of type Microsoft Basic Data. In this case, this is a fat partition, and we're going to need to mount this partition, not the disk itself necessarily. Next thing we need is a mount point. UEFI TOTS on our mount directory. Now let's mount that partition. Loop 0 P1, and we want it in our mount point, and we have to specify the file system. So now that disk has been mounted, and I can demonstrate that the disk has been mounted. If I look at the contents of that directory, we will see that we have things in there. Let's move on to building a project. So let's start with tutorial 1. There's a makefile, and this makefile has instructions for building this project. You will see that on different operating systems, in this case Darwin and Linux, we are using a different version of GCC that targets MinGW32 compiler. The reason for this is for EFI binaries we have to create PE32 plus objects. Alright, so let's go and get this compiler. If we look at the build instructions, I have specified what packages we need to install. So we need build essential, and we also need MinGW64, and I have already installed this. If you don't install this package, you're not going to have access to that GCC that we just talked about. Once you have that, then it's just a matter of simply running make, and now we have a binary called bootx64.efi. And to demonstrate that this is in fact the file that we are deploying, let's modify the source code. I'm going to go to a section of the code that prints out testing, and let's change that to hello world. Okay, save the file and exit, and let's remake our EFI. Now, once we have that binary, we can simply move it into our mount point, UEFI TOTS/EFI/boot, and overwrite it. Well, we can't do that because I didn't have permissions to do that, because we have to do this as root at the moment. We can now unmount our disk. So on mount mnt UEFI tots, and we can also destroy the loop device because we don't need it anymore. Okay, now let's run QEMU again, and this time we get a different binary running that prints out the hello world message that we talked about. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's how you build and run the EFI tutorials on Linux. And to demonstrate the point I was making about the binary output of GCC, let's have a look at the tutorial 1 directory again, and the binary that we have made, and you will see that we have indeed created a PE32 plus executable. Okay, one more nice thing that we can do from here is to automate this process. So let's create a script. I call this deploy.sh. Let's add the shebang. Let's create our loop device. Our mount point. Let's do a make clean and make. So we rebuild our project. We copy boot x64.efi into our mount point. Unmount. And detach our loopback device. We didn't actually mount our device, so mount a FAT32 partition, which is our disk P0 in this case, and on our mount point. Okay, I believe that's it. Let's have another look at it. Okay, the partition number is 1, not 0. Let's try again. Very good. Okay, so let's modify our source file again. EFI main.c, so where we say hello world. Okay, let's call it goodbye universe. Okay, and run our deploy script and run QEMU. Goodbye universe is the message that we get. So that demonstrates how you can quickly build and deploy without spending too much time mounting and unmounting or copying files and all of that nonsense. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and again, don't forget to find ThatOSDev on YouTube, subscribe to him, like his videos. Well, stay tuned, and if you have any questions, jump on the Discord channel and stay in touch. Take care.